Interesting. Okay. Yeah, still trying to figure out OBS. Let's just get into the color grading, huh? Okay, so this commercial is something that we shot a couple weeks ago. This was a fitness brand commercial with a exercise bike with Yeesold. This entire video is gonna come out on YouTube channel. I've got a whole behind the scenes that I'm working on. We shot behind the scenes. We shot a bunch of different aspects of this. I'm working on the script and like A-roll and stuff for it right now. But this was a cool opportunity, collaboration between a brand called Yeesold Fitness that sent out this exercise bike to me. I get emails all the freaking time from different brands, and typically if they're not camera related, I don't respond to them. And they'll just be like collaboration opportunities or product exchange or sponsorships, whatever. So I make sure that, are these valuable to my viewers? Is this a good opportunity? Let's take a look at this. And in this case, this was an exercise bike company called Yeesold. They're a Chinese exercise bike, basically trying to copy Peloton. Looks exactly like Peloton too. But in this project, in the email that they sent me, they were like, hey, you want to review our fitness bike? I was like, well, I don't review fitness bikes, but what if I made a really cool commercial and in exchange for, send the bike to me, make a cool commercial about it, and, end of story. Do like a whole behind the scenes YouTube channel for it. I'll talk about all this in the behind the scenes video that I put out probably this month, I hope. Probably more like next month. But just depends on when I finish that up. But it kind of lined up perfectly with, one, building out and kind of finishing up this Blackmagic PYXIS rig build that I have. And on top of that, Nisi wanted me to test out their new Aries line of cinema lenses that are T1.4. So we got to shoot on a 5-lens set of these really awesome Nisi lenses. And they turned out, I think it turned out really, really good. We even got to experiment a little bit with using some Prism Lens Effects filters on this. And anyway, so I thought it'd be cool in this live stream to kind of walk you guys through my color grading process, which, we have the edit here, and you'll see that the aspect ratio looks insane because, one, this is open gate, but I also have, some dynamic zooms going on here. That's because we're going to do some film gate on these to kind of clean that up a little bit. I also haven't decided which aspect ratio I want to export in. Do I want to maintain this open gate format? Do I want to go 16:9? Anyway, I'm still trying to decide which format is going to be, the final output. But today we're just going to focus on the color grade. So let's first of all set up our color management here. So the last live stream that I did a color grading tutorial like this with the new Sony FX30. That's how long ago that was. It was when the Sony FX30 had just come out and it was brand new. And I was like, do a little live stream. I've never gone live before. I think I had less than 1,000 subscribers at the time, and it was cool, and sorry, I need to time my hydration a little bit better. But yeah, so when that came out, I did a little color grading tutorial on there. So my entire color grading process has changed a ton. And personally, it's always changing because I'm learning new ways to color grade. I'm always trying to educate myself, become a little bit better. I think this live stream is hopefully also going to be an opportunity for that. So I will admit I am not perfect at color grading. I'm not an industry pro when it comes to color grading, but I have color graded a ton of commercial projects, documentaries, short films, features, you name it. So I did work as a work under a professional colorist for a while. He was a mentor for me. That was really cool. I could go into that story. He's a really cool guy. Anyway, but so yeah, I guess at the end of the day, this is just how I do my process right now because it's changing a lot. But color grading Blackmagic footage, I owned a Blackmagic Pocket 4K like 5 years ago. And I shot with Blackmagic RAW all the time. BRAW is a codec that I think a lot of people, hate on and don't love. And don't get me wrong, it's not amazing, but it's a decent codec. It does a good job. And when it comes to color grading this codec, we got RAW capabilities. We've got decent dynamic range. And you will notice in this shoot, I underexposed a fair amount of shots. And I'm going to show you how to recover those because it was not on purpose. Anyway, let's go into our color management here. So I'm going to open up Color management, you can either click on this little settings wheel at the bottom right hand corner, or you can hit Shift 9. That will open up our project settings here. So I'm going to go into color management, and right now I'm working in DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. So this setup here, we go to DaVinci Wide Gamut, DaVinci YRGB Color Managed, and then we go click off the automatic color management, and then we go to HDR DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, or you can go to custom. In this case, we're going to go to custom, and then we're going to set our input color space. This is where I'm still experimenting a little bit, because some people just put DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate here and set that as the input color space when working with BRAW footage, and that seems to work just fine. I've also experimented with doing the Blackmagic design film setting, Film Gen 5, and then my timeline color space being DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. From my understanding, you can go either way if you're working with Blackmagic footage. The cool thing about setting it as DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate is you can set your input color space and it can adapt to all different cameras, right? And then you can just work in that timeline color space of DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, which is a massive color space, because you have Rec 709, which is your standard output color space, and then you have Airy Log, which is a little bit bigger, and then you have Blackmagic. DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate is much bigger than all of those color spaces, so you have a wider range to work with. So our timeline color space, I'm going to set to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. Where is it? Hello? Can I not find something? There we go. Wow, I'm dumb. And then we're just going to work in, and this is again where I go back and forth, because I don't have like a fully insane HDR monitor. I do have calibrated monitors, but they're not HDR. Even though they claim they are HDR, they're not HDR. So if you look at marketing and you're like, oh, this is a 10-bit color screen with HDR and stuff like that, it's probably not. If you didn't spend, $2,000 or like $30,000 on a real HDR monitor, it's probably not. In this case, let's see what happens when we set the HDR to 1,000. And because again, I've gone back and forth. So if we do HDR 1,000, we can see we've got a little bit of, like, it converts us to our Rec 709 or our DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate timeline and gives us a basis to start off with. But if we open that up again and we go to SDR, it's not going to look any different. But if we go to our color spaces, check out the waveform here for a second. If you pay attention to the waveform and we change this to HDR 1000, hit save, waveform gets crushed way down here. So if you work in an HDR timeline, this is fine. This just means you got to work with these HDR wheels, which is what I'm accustomed to. So I've been using the HDR wheels quite a bit. But if you're in that SDR setting and color grading in a standard definition resolution, which if you're delivering in like social media format or something like that, that's the format you should be in. And most of the time, if you're working in this setting, we can already see I've got a clipped highlight here, but we're in RAW, so we can recover with that. I'm guessing it's this pole in the background. But we'd want to switch to these SDR wheels in order to sit there. But because we're color managed, we're working with a RAW camera. Today, I'm going to sit with HDR 1000, even though I don't have an HDR monitor technically. So let's hop back into HDR. There's a lot of technical differences there, but from my understanding, HDR, SDR, you got standard definition resolution, you're working with different brightness calibrations, and that's why this waveform in your scopes is measuring those differences. I'm sure that there's a bunch of other technical terms that would describe that way better than I just did. So take that with a grain of salt and forgive me. All right. So now we've got our footage here. We have a bunch of different shots to choose from, but now we have like a nice basis to start with. But here's one thing. So I did the cinematography on this. I did the camera work and produced and directed the entire thing with a help from a bunch of different people. So huge shout out to everybody that helped out on set. But one mistake that I kind of made here is that these opening shots, this one is really high contrasted, and then it goes to this one, which is still high contrast, but the lighting is coming from an interesting direction. It's coming from the opposite direction. And so there's a little bit of a change here in the exposure, and we're gonna have to mess around with that a little bit. So we're gonna be working with some windows and keyframes, and this all starts to even out a little bit and balance out until we get to here, where we've kind of defined this hard lighting source comes from the garage that's on the opposite side of his face. And so we wanted to maintain contrast when shooting this. So when we were shooting this, we had the garage that had windows coming in, and we defined that as like, okay, that's our key light. We're going to use that as our key. That's going to be our motivational light source. And then we put an 8x silk on the opposite side and started using it as just a bounce, but it wasn't enough light coming in to be able to bounce off it. So we threw a 600 watt light behind it and blasted that into the silk. And that gave us a little bit more light, but I think the problem was we kept messing around with intensity, which is my fault. I would take 100% the blame for that. And we started to get issues with, you see this shot, this side of his face is exposed nicely. It looks corrected. It looks balanced in contrast comparatively to the key side of his face, right? So the fill is nice and balanced. It matches this shot, and it matches these other shots here. But then you go to this shot where I decided to turn up the intensity a little bit like a moron. And all of a sudden we have an imbalance in our key and fill contrast. We completely, like, this back and forth, these two images look so different. These could have been completely different shoot days or locations. If if you didn't tell me different, that's exactly what it would have felt like. So in this situation, we're going to try and balance this out a little bit more to fill out that contrast to more match these shots. Now, I'll be completely real with you guys. I've already done a color grade for these. So this is not the first time that I have color graded this stuff. So the goal is to go from what we have on that other timeline to something like this. We're looking a little bit gritty. We're looking a little bit more intense. And we're definitely looking more of this for lack of a better term, filmic vibe. Did I? Oh my goodness, did I actually do that? Why is that? Hang on. I'm getting distracted, but 1 second. Okay. Apparently, there we go. Okay. Anyway, back to the color. Okay, coloring live. Let's make sure our timeline is 4K. Okay, cool. All right. Let's get started here. So this is my basic node tree that I decided to go with this color grade. Typically with my node tree, I will set up a noise reduction section here that has about 4 different settings for noise reduction. So 3 different settings for noise reduction. I don't know why this halation is here. We're going to get rid of that. But noise reduction, I have it basically in 3 different flavors. Let's not do my friend dirty like that. Okay. This is our lower intensity noise reduction. So this is going to be for more basic noise reduction. This is going to be for middle ground and more intense noise reduction. So these are all set to different settings, just using the motion effects temporal noise reduction section here. And then after that, we have our basic exposure and white balance. This is where we're going to be in our HDR wheels, and we're just going to get the exposure to a point that we can start being a little bit more intentional with our color grade and choosing, how this is going to set up. Our power windows is going to be anywhere that we need to power window some extra light coming in or decrease light, add some contrast. Maybe we need to light just a section of his face. That's where we're going to add some more power windows. Our look is going to be where we're going to add maybe some blue in the shadows. Maybe we're going to add some cyan. Maybe we're going to recover some skin tones or something like that. Clean up. This is my wild card node. Whatever needs to be here, if there's just something random, I'll put this cleanup node right here. And that's just kind of whatever it needs to be. Highlights is going to clean up whatever exposure is happening in the background. Highlights are highlights. Clean up the highlights, boom. Skin tones, make sure that they're nice and balanced. That's where we're going to hop into our vector scope and make sure that our skin tones are on line with this skin tone indicator here. And then film look. This is where I use the film look creator. Now, I feel like there's some controversy around this effect. Wow, my face is covering it. I feel like there's a little bit of controversy around the film look creator effect, because I feel like, you know, you shoot for something and then you dirty it up with the film look, right? And in my case, I still like to maintain a little bit of like a clean look, even if it is like intentionally gritty, intentionally filmic. And with this setup, I start with a clean slate. And from here, this is where maybe I'll mess around with my saturation a little bit. Maybe I'll come down here and mess with my split toning and bring in some more of that cyan magenta type, cyan and orange look, or one that I actually like. I'll just turn this on real quick. One that I actually like is just to turn this to the right, and you start to get more of this blue in the shadows happening. And then the problem is that his skin tone tends to start looking, leaning more of this magenta, and it starts to lean more on this red side. So then you got to go in and clean up. You would do that beforehand. And that's why this is the last node. This is the last thing that gets touched, because this should be like final pass cleanup type of stuff to get the final look that you're looking for. Now, I'll be completely honest. I don't always do that last. Sometimes it's the first thing that I do because it's something that I get excited about. I like creating a little bit of a filmic looking type of shot. That's just because I like to emulate film in some ways, even shooting on digital cameras, especially when it's with a project that I have full control of, which this project, I did have full creative control. And so, you know, that's the name of the game. If I was working with, you know, a client that was hiring me to color grade their commercial or short film or something like that, and they're like, I need the cleanest look that you can give me possible, I'd be like, you got it, boom, and start color grading it. I probably wouldn't even have the film look node on this timeline, but it just depends on what you're doing. That's why it's all about intention. It's all about what's the end result, what's the deliverable, and you got to keep that in mind. Okay, so that's enough talk. Let's get into it. There's also vignette, halation, bloom, all that. We'll go over that. Okay, so let me turn off the effects here. I want to make sure that my screen is big enough so you guys can see it. Let's start with, let's make it simple. Let's start with this opening shot here. So in this opening shot, he opens the, we'll let it loop back here for a second. In this opening shot, he opens the garage door, sees the fitness bike here in our third, and closes it and walks on in. Also, if you're just getting here, ignore the fact that the screen is changing. We will fix that, I promise. Okay, so let's get ourselves to a center. There we go. So in this section, we can see in our waveforms here that that background is actually exposed correctly. We're just like barely touching those top sections of our waveform there, but we want to maintain that. Now, typically when I start doing my color grading and I'm in my exposure section here, which by the way, the noise reduction and all these nodes are at the front, because when you're doing playback, these are going to render first, and any changes that you make after those nodes are not going to affect the render, are not going to make you re-render the noise reduction frame. So if I were to put noise reduction right here, any changes I make in these nodes is going to make me re-render the frames again because of the node being ahead. So that's why we put these nodes right here. Anything that needs to render is going to sit right here. Film look and LUT is always placed at the end, because that should be the last thing you do after you clean it and get to a base setup. This is our, you know, this is where we get to have fun and just mess around. So as our exposure here, let's just try to create a little bit more contrast, because I feel like even though we do have a fair amount of contrast going on here, I feel like it could be a little bit better. But we want to do that without losing too much information in the shadows. So let's start off just by taking our global wheel here and just bringing that up a little bit. We're also going to increase our contrast, our pivot. One thing I will say about the PYXIS and working with BRAW is that I was actually reading about this. There's a YouTube video that went over comparing PYXIS BRAW to the Red Komodo Red RAW codec. And the PYXIS is technically a 12-bit color space. And when you shoot in it and you pull up your footage in like media here and you open up a raw B-roll shot, you'll see here 16-bit color over here. And if you know Red and other systems, they shoot in they record in a 16-bit color space, and then you edit in the 16-bit color space. That's why those file sizes are absolutely massive. Blackmagic, their file sizes are still big, but comparatively to Red and other systems, it's like half the size. It's freaking tiny. And so having this 16-bit color, I was like, wait a second, does my PYXIS actually shoot in 16-bit color? And so I did a little bit more research and found out that yes, in a roundabout way. So from my understanding, the PYXIS does record in a 16-bit, but it compresses it down to a 12-bit color space in order to maintain the size of the file. And then it gets decompressed later. That's a very, very simple explanation of that. The video goes through, goes over that entire thing. Maybe I'll see if I can link it here in the chat or something like that later. But yeah, that entire finding out that the PYXIS actually kind of shoots 16-bit color was really cool. Made me feel like, not absolutely regret not getting a Red after they sliced the price right after I bought the PYXIS, but it is what it is. All right, so if we want to, we're kind of touching here in our shadows, but I'm just gonna bring him up just a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit. I also, these reds are kind of shifting more in this yellow face, so we need to bring some more blue into them. When it comes to white balance, I'll touch white balance a couple different ways, and it just depends on which one I think looks the best. You could just be in your global wheels here, and you can just shift this around to wherever you think the white balance starts to lock in. That's an okay way to do it, because when I look at this, I start to see a little bit of yellow here in our shadows, see a little bit of magenta kind of sitting in our highlights. And so Z to go to full frame. Let's go ahead and use our temp and tint control, which is not, it's fine, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and see if I can find a good medium here with our white balance and our tint. So with our temp and tint, we'll get it to a good spot. And then we're going to move to our, stay in our exposure, and we're going to increase that contrast just a little bit. No, we're starting to crush again. Let's go like right there. I also want to see how it is. Yeah, okay. So we know that it becomes real dark once he closes that. So that's where I think, okay, maybe what we do is we're okay with, this is a commission, new camera. What? I don't know. Kind of new camera, I guess. PYXIS. I bought it back in April. But this is a commercial project, more of just a passion thing. But I kind of explained earlier that Yeasel emailed me. So the brand that makes this bike, they're like a Peloton competitor, a cheaper Peloton competitor. But yeah, they emailed me and were like, hey, you want to review our bike? And I was like, I don't review bikes, but what if I made a sick commercial? And they were like, dope. Okay. Also lined it up with a cool opportunity to use the new Nisi Aries lenses, because they let me borrow those for like 2 weeks or something like that. So anyway, none of this was sponsored. It was just like, hey, yo, let's make a cool commercial. At the end of the day, I do get to keep the bike, but that was it. I funded the entire project myself, and I had full creative freedom and control, which is really cool for a project like this. But I have done, client commercial color grading and other stuff like that. So anyway, so coming back into our exposure tools a little bit, I'm going to be a little bit more okay with the highlights blowing out. Not super okay with it, but I want to make sure that when we do come to this contrast area, which we could keyframe this, but that's a lot. That's a lot for like starting off. So let's be okay with the highlights blowing out a little bit and coming down here. Okay, so let's go right. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Let's go into our power windows. some of the ways that I like to introduce a little bit of blue or yellow into the shadows to create a little bit of split toning, to create a little bit of contrast, not just in our exposure, but also our color, is to come into our primary wheels here. And you can introduce a little bit of blue or cyan into the shadows. And when I was kind of coming up with the mood board for this, I really liked this more cyan and bluish type of look. And I also really liked more of this like gold look. So I thought about leaning my shadows more in this like gold area. Not too much, because that would look absolutely insane. And then lean our gamma more like over here. But as I started working with the color grade a little bit more previously, I pulled this over to the cyan look, and I was like, okay, that actually contrasts the red really well, which, by the way, we need to isolate those reds to make sure that they're actually red. And before we do any of that, that should be over here. Oh, wait, those are actually looking okay. Let's come to our vector scope. What was your concept on this one? Okay, so concept, originally my concept was to do a really cool, like, contrast between two different athletes. So I wanted to have this contrast of like, you know, it's an exercise bike, but you're going to have a wide variety of people that use this exercise bike. And so I thought, what if I had like an athlete that was like super intense, and that was going to be, you know, this gritty, like in the gym type of look. And then I had more of like an average user that's just like in their bedroom with the bike. And that was going to be the original concept. And I wrote out a whole shot list. I wrote out a whole script, and it was going to contrast this idea of like this casual person that's, you know, still going hard and working on things, but they're more like, they're more laid back. You know, they're not pushing as hard when they're working on stuff, but the athlete is just sweating buckets and just pushing it all the way to the end, and is intense and focused and ready, and is trying to achieve some type of goal. Where, what am I doing? I should not be changing these. Sorry, you're making me distracted. I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. Production for that would have been really expensive. And when I was not being paid for this project, it was fully self-funded, I was like, okay, let's think about how much money I got for this. So I took some money that I made from affiliate commissions, from AdSense money that I made on my YouTube channel, which is not a lot, but I think at the end of the day, I had like a budget of around $600, which was basically going to pay for location rental, food for on set, and getting food later, and then like maybe, and wardrobe. Wardrobe was a big one, actually. I think wardrobe was like $150 for this, like maybe 200. And so I was like, okay, cool. But the cool thing about being like being a camera YouTuber in this space is that I had all the gear that I needed to shoot something like this. And so we were able to have, you know, I had friends. I also had a friend bringing in some of his lights, but we had like a scrim kit. We had a bunch of lights. We had, you know, the PYXIS, and then we had the Nisi lenses on loan. Like, that was not going to cost anything, which was awesome, because a lot of times people spend thousands of dollars on camera kits just to do projects like this. And something like this would cost a lot for like a project setup to get this type of resolution, to get this type of format. And, you know, that, I guess that was a huge pro to one, having this channel. So like, massive thank you to everyone that's like supported this channel, because one, you know, in a way you had a part in helping, you know, build this project, which is really cool. But having only $600, that other concept just wasn't going to work. Because that's 2 shoot days, that's 2 locations. It gets expensive. So in this project, I decided to switch it up and was like, you know what, let's just stick with the one athlete. My buddy here, his name's Jordan. He's also a filmmaker. I don't know if you guys have heard of Premiere MD. They were kind of trending on Instagram for a while, and they actually just killed the Premiere MD character, which is really sad because they're freaking awesome. But the Boren Bros, they've made short films, features. They've done film festivals, a bunch of other stuff. So this is Jordan. He recently just had a whole fitness craze and stuff like that. Lost a bunch of weight, and so I thought this would be really cool to kind of showcase like him, where he's an athlete. He can push, We shot for 3 or 4 hours doing this, and he did not get off the bike once. He was hauling on this thing, and I was having him go crazy. So like, I was having him absolutely push it for some of this stuff, and he was sweating a ton, but he never slowed down. Like, he was just pushing it so hard, and it was just awesome to see him. Yeah, rip Premiere MD for real. But Jordan is such a cool guy, so he was cool enough. Yes, I will upload this on my channel. When we're done with the color grade, we'll do a full playback, so you guys will get a preview of everything. But I'm gonna upload a whole behind the scenes video of this entire shoot, all of that. This live stream is just a little sneak peek, so consider yourself special. But yeah, Jordan's really cool. So he was willing to come and do this for free. So one, talent was free. That was awesome. Wardrobe was like $150. I wanted it to look cool. I wanted to have, the Nike shoes in there. I wanted him to have the Nike shirt, Nike shorts, whatever. And so, we spent a little bit on wardrobe, but that's it. At the end of the day, I think I spent $600, which is awesome. That was to take everybody out to dinner afterwards. That was to do everything. And again, huge shout out to the friends that I've had for years that were willing to come and hang out with me on set for like 5 hours and come help shoot this project. Huge, massive shout out to them. They are awesome. But yeah, I'll make sure that, they get, pay with exposure, I guess. I freaking hate that. But when I do have projects that are, big budget and stuff like that, I make sure people get paid properly. So in this scenario where, this is just passion project, is what it is. So back to color grading. Gosh dang it. Anyway, let's start to introduce let's just come back to here. So let's move to our next shot. So now as he walks in, he comes over to this other side. We do a little jump cut. This is him getting into, let's stop doing this loop. So this is him taking off his sweatshirt. He takes off, his crappy shoes and puts on his workout shoes because bro's getting serious. He's got his blender bottle with pure water in it, and he gets ready to come and start doing his workout. Before I move on, I'm actually, because the whole zoom in and these bars thing is bugging me, let's decide what freaking aspect ratio we're going to work in. I'm thinking, let's just go 16:9. Let's go 16:9. No, scratch that. We're gonna go 3:2. We're gonna go open gate because then we can reformat and reframe to whatever. So the way that I do that, and this is dumb, so please judge it and move on, because we're gonna go to our film look and we're gonna go to film gate, enable film gate. We're gonna go Academy. Yeah, we're going to go Academy, but we're not going to do the curvature on the sides. And that should maintain our aspect ratio just fine. What? Oh, it's because I didn't apply it to any of the other clips. Okay, enable Academy, enable curvature, cool, Control A. And I don't want it to affect that. So let's go boom, boom, replace, cool. And then go to this one, and we're going to apply that film gate again. Go to Academy, boom. Okay, so now we've got this. We should be, no, what in the world? Don't make me do it all. I'll destroy my life. Okay, back, boom, boom, boom. Good glory. Why was that so frustrating? Okay. Come back to here. Okay, let's get a frame that we can really see some stuff. Let's go with here. Okay, come back to our HDR wheels because we're working in HDR palettes today with DaVinci Wide Gamma Intermediate. Checking out our waveforms. Let's get our exposure correct first here. So because we want to maintain a little bit of this grittiness, because once he walks in, this contrast is established. So let's make sure we can maintain that. And that's going to be tough because this is bright in the background and he's got, there's already quite a bit of contrast just between him and the background. But let's try and, first of all, give us some more room here. Let's try and kind of clean this up a little bit. So back to our HDR. Let's just bring our exposure to like here, and I'm going to increase my contrast. Also, anytime you increase contrast in the HDR palette, you lose saturation. It does not increase saturation, so you do have to make up for that a little bit if you want to. Maybe you want to desaturate it a little bit. Let's go with this, and then let's take these highlights and just bring them down to like right there. Let's see what we did there. Before, after, before, after. Who likes the before better? I think I like the before better. You know when you do something and that's a complete waste of time? Dang, yeah, I like the grittiness of the before. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, gosh dang it. Okay, reset that. Let's go back to highlights. Let's just bring those down a little bit to more of a reasonable, like, gritty exposure. And then let's just bring up our shadows just a teeny bit and bring up our blacks. Okay. Okay, so before, after. Why do I keep ruining it? I keep ruining it. Go back. Before, after. Before, after. Let's stick there. So we basically didn't have to do anything. So let's come back to our power windows. Let's go to primaries. Let's introduce a, well, no, before I do that, let's get our white balance. We're just going to use the sliders today. I know that's not the best way to do it, but that's just what we're doing today. I'm mostly paying attention to skin tone whenever I'm looking at white balance. So I like to use the vector scope and make sure that my skin tones are somewhere in the right spot. Let's go like right there. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next shot. Ugh, timing is everything. Okay, so now to match the previous thing, I'm actually going to take our global exposure wheel and just bring that down. Dang, that's quite a bit of contrast. Okay, and then let's bring our lights. Bring those down just a little bit. It's so subtle. Like so subtle. But it makes a big difference. Also gonna bring our shadows, increase our contrast. And I know I'm going faster this. I mostly just want to get through so we can start doing more of our grade. Okay. Something like that. Okay. We'll start doing the look here as soon as I get the exposure nice and set. Oh, hello, leg. Boom. Hang on, guys. I know I'm already riled up, but... Red Bull's illegal. I don't know why I said that. It's not. Okay. One thing I actually did before I even came into the edit, I knew I wanted to take these greens and lean them more in the cyan area rather than yellow, because right now they're really yellow. Before we do that, exposure. So we're still kind of maintaining this more of like a, like almost underexposed type of look. So let's just bring global down. We'll bring the light down and bring up our contrast and pivot just a wee bit. And honestly, I feel like that's actually maintaining quite a bit of contrast there. So then let's go to our white balance. How's our skin tone looking? Let's go to our qualifier. Our skin tone's actually in a decent spot. If anything, it's leaning a little... No, that's on target. Awesome. Cool. So let's maintain... Let's see how our consistency is looking. What happened here, dude? Okay. These two look good. I like that. This one. What happened there, man? The skin tones are... Man, they're exposed like way too much. Okay. And they're leaning super magenta. Okay, this is on target. This is not on target. So let's go to our skin tone real quick. Come over here. Let's shift that over just a little bit in our reds. I'm also going to bring down the saturation. And now let's take a look. From South Korea. Really? Hello. I am from the the west of the United States. I mean, Utah, actually. Down in the desert. Okay, But hello from South Korea. That is awesome. That is really awesome. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, these are still... What am I doing? Let's bring that back. Something like that. Also, these sliders are really temperamental. You gotta be careful with them because you can mess up real quick. Let's kind of go like right there-ish. Come back to our white balance and exposure. Lean this more in this direction. Okay, cool. All right. Dang, man, that, I'll be honest, this is more of a cinematography mistake than anything. Let's see if we can make this transition a little bit easier by exposing this one just a little bit more. So I'm gonna bring this up to like there. I think it's also just hard to tell because like you go from just his skin tone being so magenta to all of a sudden just being like nothing. And I think one is the lack of saturation in the skin tones, but also it's just, you know, it's a different shot. It just looks, it's lit differently, which again is my fault. Let's see. Man, let's move on. I'm taking too much time. So let's go to here. Let's just go shift minus and see what happens. So that I just copied the previous color grade from the previous shot onto here, and you can see we got this gritty look, but we're crushing those blacks quite a bit. So let's bring up our exposure, and let's go back and forth between previous and after. That actually looks pretty good. One thing I did want to do with the green, so we're going to go into our cleanup node. Remember, this is our wildcard node, which, by the way, if you're just hopping in, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we're color grading a self-produced commercial for a fitness bike, and yeah, but we're going to try and speed through this because I also wanted to make sure I do a Q&A, and I also wanted to take a look at this PYXIS camera, and I don't want to be streaming for 5 hours. So anyway, also my dream is to become Queso one day. I watch his stream like every single day. I'm his biggest fan. Okay, so with these greens, we're going to come into our green here, and we're going to mess around with this hue slider, which again, you got to be careful here. If you push it too far, it's going to look like crap. So you got to be so subtle with your changes, but be intentional enough that you get the look that you're looking for. So I'm going to slide this just a little bit. And I'm thinking this more like desaturated look with the greens. Let's take our yellows and kind of mess around here. We could go for more of this like blue over saturated look. Look for, that'd be cool. Let's change it to purple. Let's go more in this like greenish look, not too far, keep it subtle. And then let's bring down the saturation just a little bit. I like that. I like that. So let's check out what we did. This is what it looked like before. Yellow mush. And now vibrant green. Boom. Woo. Okay. So then let's go to here and shift minus to copy the previous mother trucker. Shift plus. Shift minus is 2 before. Okay. Let me explain. So if you hit shift minus on your keyboard for hotkeys, it will copy the previous color grade from the node 2 screens beforehand. Okay. Which, by the way, I also just realized we need to copy this node. So we're going to go, no, don't open that. We're going to go Control C and then come back here and we're going to go cleanup, Control V. And now we have this consistent color of the grass. Okay, cool. So shift minus is going to copy the color grade from 2 nodes before. Shift plus copies the color grade from the node, the direct node before. The copies from this one. Comprende? All right, cool. All right, so now let's go to this shot and we're going to just copy this one and see what happens. I really wanted to maintain some intensity with this, like to maintain some type of focus. Because even though like he's not the super intense athlete, he's still, in here, he's motivated, he's focused, he's ready to, take on this workout he's about to do. How's a PYXIS 6K camera compared to Sony, Canon cameras in terms of skin tone, in terms of simple specs? The PYXIS is better, but that's just specs. Yeah, specs are specs. At the end of the day, it depends on what you do with the camera. And I think that's what a lot of people get frustrated about and confused by, especially on YouTube. I haven't addressed any of this because, one, I don't want to. I think it's a waste of time. But there's a lot of controversy between YouTubers talking about gear too much or talking about this, that, and the other thing, and not providing value or doing tutorials, which is one why I've tried to do more tutorials. These live streams are an intention to start something like that, but I also want to do more behind the scenes stuff. That's why I'm investing in doing more of these passion projects or showcasing more of the work that I do on set outside of YouTube, and to show here's what it's like to create videos, to create high-end videos, one, with not a lot of money, but also with a lot of money, because you level up as you go on, and the more gear that you start to attain, the more you get to learn, the more you get to grow, and it's a whole process. But yeah, gear doesn't matter at the to a point. Gear doesn't matter until you want it to matter. And I think with the PYXIS 6K versus Sony, Canon, all those other systems, it's a great camera. There's a lot of people that will donk it. I have really been enjoying using it. When it comes to skin tone, though, I think that the PYXIS is closer to Lumix and Airy than Sony and Red when it comes to skin tone specifically, right? The dynamic range is not nearly as good as some other systems out there. If you're comparing to the FX6, I feel like the PYXIS does lack in dynamic range comparatively, but it's just different systems, right? The PYXIS 6K doesn't do RAW. And so with this system, you get RAW. You can work with, changing your exposure. You can change your ISO. You can do, in these RAW camera settings, I can change this to be ISO 6. I didn't realize that was changed. Anyway, so I could change this to be our base ISO. I can change it to be ISO 640, 500. I can do highlight recovery. I can do gamut compression. There's a lot more flexibility in post using RAW, but not everybody needs to use RAW. I don't shoot RAW for anything other than these projects. If I'm doing commercial work, if I'm doing stuff for clients, passion projects like this, things that I care about, the end look, and I'm putting meditation and time into, that's where I'm going to care about shooting RAW, shooting 16-bit color, all that stuff. Canon does a really good job with skin tone. That's one of the reasons that they became popular, is because their skin tones are rich. They're kind of this nice red magenta shift, which is really looks really, really good, especially for photography and in video cases. I've shot with the C500 a few times, and the skin tones on that camera are beautiful. I don't know if I would say that they're much better than the PYXIS. I feel like they're just as good. Yeah, I think that the PYXIS 6K at the end of the day is just a solid affordable cinema camera, and that's Blackmagic's entire goal, is to just give affordable cinema cameras. But I also think that you could get very, very similar results, if not identical, with a much cheaper camera. Learn cinematography, learn how to light, learn how to use a camera, and learn how to tell good stories. That's all that matters. Yeah, I know that YouTube's kind of been just really dumb about gear lately, and I refuse to make a video addressing it because I think it's dumb. So anyway, all right, so back to the color grade here. Let's take a look at this. Honestly, I feel like these three shots are pretty cohesive, so I'm gonna keep those. Now we can finally move on from this. So he puts his shoes on, he's got his new Nikes, sits up, he's like, hell yeah, let's go. Gets up, walks away. Now we lock into getting into the bike. So this is the workout here. So again, this is on me. we lit to have motivation light coming here, which I think is fine, but the problem is we had too much contrast on this side. So this is where we're gonna start using some power windows. So let's get our basic exposure going on here. So let's kind of match what we've been doing. So let's bring down our global, let's bring up our contrast, shift our pivot here, turn off these clips so you can freaking see the shot. Also turn off the effects. And let's just get this to a point that we're starting to feel comfortable. Still want that contrast. Let's bring up our saturation just a wee bit. Let's get our white balance. I'm going to start speeding through this because this is taking a long time. We're an hour into stream. I'm not even done. Okay, let's go to power windows. So we're going to increase a little bit more contrast here. I'm just going to take a gradient window like I just did. So we're in our power windows. This is the gradient. And I'm going to kind of create a fake light here. DaVinci Resolve also has a relight feature, but that is really hard on the GPU. And I think this is also fine. So let's just take our global. Let's just bring this down. I'm also going to bring the highlights down just a little bit. And that's going to increase our contrast a little bit more so that we're kind of keeping consistent with this balance that we've established. So once we get to this point, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a before and after. Dude, LUTs. Okay. Let's go here, bring up the contrast just a little bit more. Okay, cool. Hop in here. Let's go to the next shot. Okay. Ugh, this is another case. I'm actually just going to go Shift plus. Copy the previous grade. Take this power window and do the same thing. Okay, cool. Skin tone is really where this is going to start to matter. So let's go to our vector scope here. Okay. Okay, cool. Now let's go to the next one. Same thing here. So we're going to Shift plus, and we're going to bring down the light. Not too much because we don't want to lose detail on the highlights. Let's bring down just the exposure. Let's do a point. We're also going to add another power window. So let's go ahead and add a power window here. And we're going to do a second power window, second gradient here. Go like right there. And let's bring the light down, not too much. Let's just bring the global. Aha. Okay, so now we're still maintaining a little bit of this contrast. This shot is way warmer than the previous shot, so we're going to bring this over. But we don't want to lose our skin tone, so let's bring those back. Just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so this is where we start to get into the fun of it. So anyway, he gets on the bike, grips the handles, takes a deep breath in, and we get to work. Boom. Goes into the workout. Now, for sake of time, we're going to get into more of the look type of things, and then we'll just start copying some grades. So let's go ahead and start with this shot. So we're going to go to, I actually like to start with my film look here. So let's go to film look. We're going to open this up. Now the film look, again, can be really touchy. You have to be subtle with it. So a lot of people will just come in here and they'll be like, oh, I want it to look like nostalgic. And they'll do something like this, right? No, don't do that. That's fine, but don't do that. You could also change it to like a 65mm type of look, which, you know, these looks don't look too bad. They're not the worst thing I've seen. And then you can even change like the intensity or of the effects or whatever. I don't like to do that. I like to start with a clean slate, turn on that film gate that we had before, go to our Academy, and go to, I like to start with my subtractive saturation. So cool thing about subtractive saturation is it's going to saturate your image without increasing the luminance of the colors. So it's just going to make them deeper and richer, more rich. And then I like to go to my split toning, and split tone is just going to introduce a little bit of color into the shadows. It's going to introduce a little bit of color into your highlights, and then you can shift your pivot to decide where you want that. But what's really cool is that if you do that color management process that we did at the beginning of the stream, where we came in here and we defined our color space, this is going to recognize that color space. As you can see, we're working in the, we're telling it to use the timeline color space, which is DaVinci Wide Gamma Intermediate. So it's going to recognize the color space that you're working in. Now we can shift this pivot and amount here to get us to a point that we're starting to look pretty good. And then I like to add a little bit of a vignette to kind of focus on our subject. It's so subtle, but it makes a difference. Let's add a little bit of halation, not too much. So let's turn on our halation. Let's bring down the amount to like 0.3, something like that. And then let's make this nice and gritty. Let's enable some grain. I like to start with the 35mm preset, and then I turn my saturation all the way down. In this case, we're gonna keep the image defocus where it is. One, because these Nisi Aries lenses are really sharp, even though we were shooting at T1.4 here. Like, the depth on this is crazy. Look at that bokeh in the background. Like, this looks insane. But yeah, these Aries lenses are absolutely diabolical. I have to send them back on Tuesday, and I am so sad because they've been so fun to work with. I'm making a review video about those as well. Really excited. But yeah, let's, and then that grain, that is also a subtle difference, but it makes it look a little bit more gritty. I'm going to bring it up a little bit more. Let's go to like 0.4 here. Okay. So now we're introducing a little bit of grain into our shot. It's starting to look nice and gritty. Like, let me show you this before. Hello. Thank you. Jeez, DaVinci. Okay, so let me show you the before and after here. So this is before. This is what we friggin' shot. Wow, that looks... Who shot this? This looks terrible. This is our grade. Okay, it's a little bit more gritty. We're letting the blacks kind of crush in here with his beard, a little bit in here. I'm okay with that because it's a gritty look and it's okay and it's intentional, right? I think a lot of technical colorists would come in here and say, "Oh, those blacks, man, they're not exposed correctly, whatever," and they would try to bring up the excuse me, where'd those blue lines come from? Hello? Is it time to get a new GPU? Anyway, yeah, I feel like a lot of, beginner colorists would come in here and not be okay with these blacks kind of crushing. And again, it's an intentional choice that you have to decide. It's a creative choice. If you want them to be crushed, let them be crushed. There are so many feature films that have crushed shadows. Like, I just saw the live action How to Train Your Dragon, and there were so many scenes in there where the shadows were crushed and there was no detail. And it was like, okay, like, sure. But like, it looked great. It looked fine, and it was an intentional creative choice. But yeah, the before, after, big difference. Let's just copy the grade. Why is DaVinci doing that? What is that coming from? Hang on, I gotta figure this out. It's gotta be in the film look. It's in the film look. Why? Is it in the grain? Nope. Is it halation? It's... Excuse me, what? First of all, that made this way too underexposed. Let's go to ISO 800 and see what happens there. That looks a lot better. Okay. So just copying the grades from before to the next one, we get this really nice, gritty, underexposed type of look. I don't mind this at all. I actually think that's really clean. Let's go to... Yo, Uncle Tomato, thank you so much. That's such a great message. Dude, I would totally see that. Like, that's the whole point, right? Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you found value in that. The FX30 is so freaking awesome. That is a solid young filmmaker camera. Like, I love the FX30 to death. I don't know if you can see it. It's sitting on my table over there. The rig has actually changed a lot. I should show you this. Sorry. let's get into the Q&A a little bit too. I wanted to have Q&A time for this, so I know I'm doing a color grade, but if you have questions, let's hop into it, and I'll take time from the color grade to work on that. This is my current FX30 rig. It's changed a little bit. I got the little extra grip handle right here, and then still got the 7-inch monitor. Got the V-mount battery on the back still, and now I'm rocking some Sirui anamorphic lenses for autofocus, which are really cool. I'm loving this thing. Anyway, so glad that you found value from that. That is awesome. Yeah, super cool. Thanks for commenting. I appreciate that. Heck yeah. No, that's the whole reason I started this channel. I just wanted to take what I've learned over the years and help inspire new people to make some cool stuff. Like, that's the whole point, right? Let's make some cool stuff. Whether you're using cool gear or not using cool gear, I mean, just, yeah, make cool stuff. All right. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I actually really like just copying the previous grade to this shot because it works really well. So let's go to the next one. Let's try the same thing. Shift plus. That's definitely too underexposed. So let's go back to our HDR palettes and let's just bring this up. And let's bring our exposure up. Let's bring contrast up. That's looking pretty good too. One thing with the skin tone here, it's a little green. I'm kind of liking it though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm kind of liking that though. That's really awesome. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, one thing I did want to turn off actually. No, let's keep that. You see this power window that we added from like 2 shots earlier? That's actually adding some nice contrast in there. We could keep it off though, and that would still look really good too. It just doesn't make sense from the previous image. We could... Excuse me? DaVinci, why do you keep doing this? Hello? DaVinci, you're killing me, man. What on earth is happening? Is it the film gate? No. It doesn't happen with playback though, and then it's gone. Like DaVinci, what in the world is going on here? Okay. Yeah, cool. Actually, taking away that node actually helped a lot with that shot. That's starting to look so good. So yeah, take a look at this. Before, after. Get this nice gritty cyan type of look. I really like how that's coming out. Okay. Let's do the same thing here. So I'm actually going to go shift minus. Yep. Okay. And again, this one's leaning a little too cyan. So I'm going to bring it back right there. Let's bring it over. What do you mean DaVinci's already dead? Watch about the new grip as well. Yeah, freaking awesome. Beginner tips for the FX30 specifically, like settings wise. Thank you so much for reacting to my comments. Super nice to get. Thank you. Absolutely. Well, you're totally welcome. Thank you for hopping in. The FX30 one exposure is everything. Even though it's a Super 35, even though it's not a full frame sensor like the FX3, you gotta nail exposure. There have been so many times that I have either overexposed or underexposed with that camera. Typically it's underexposed because when you expose with S-Log footage, especially with Cine EI, it's really easy to underexpose because your intention is to overexpose with S-Log footage. Like sometimes I'm pushing the footage on my FX30 to like plus 1.7 EV, if not further. But that's why it's really helpful to have an external monitor that can support false color, which if you don't know what false color is, look up a tutorial to explain it. But that is a really great exposure tool to help you dial in your exposure. The problem with combining false color on an external monitor and Sony cameras is that Cine EI is not going to give you like your exactly what it's going to look like converted to Rec 709 in exposure terms. So using that EV is going to be a little bit more helpful to you. And so I like to expose a little bit more in the plus 1.7 EV, if not plus 2, which I know sometimes is too far, but like it will recover, I promise. Sony is really good at recovering highlights. And so I would say nail the exposure. That's step number one with any camera, but especially with Sony cameras, and learn that exposure. So like just in your free time, what I would recommend, I did this too. I messed around with different EV exposure ranges with the same image. So I just set up like a random shot, whether it be like an A-roll shot like I have right now, or whether I'm outside or something like that. I set up a scene and I exposed for, you know, for even exposure, so plus 0 EV on the screen. And then I did one that was like plus 0.7, and I did one that was plus 1.7 and then plus 2. And I brought that into my software and I took a look at every single one and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Which one of these is going to recover the best and give me the best workaround using S-Log? So that's what I recommend. Just really get to know S-Log as best that you can, because the better that you know how to expose S-Log footage, the better your footage is going to look. So I mean, that's what I've done. I've had this camera for, oh my gosh, I've had this camera almost 3 years, and I have shot so many different exposure tools, and yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that's what I would do. Learn S-Log 3 like it's the back of your hand. I personally recommend getting in, using that external monitor with false color, because that's going to get you more familiar with using other cameras. So like one day if you want to shoot with an FX6, or if you want to shoot with a PYXIS or other systems, false color is going to help you learn that exposure a little bit better. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. By the way, I'm not cussing DaVinci. Oh, you're talking about the artist. My man lost his ear, and now some random YouTuber is cussing him out on a stream. Man's had a hard life, I guess. Also, I wasn't cussing. I don't cuss. Anyway, let's go to global. Gonna bring this down. Let's go to the next shot. Let's do shift minus, see what happens. Ooh, I don't mind what's happening here. That's kind of dope. This is actually turning out pretty good for, first of all, we need to zoom in on this a little bit. Let's go right there. Okay. It is losing a little bit of contrast, so let's bring that down. I like that. It's looking nice. I'm glad you found that as humorous as I did. All right. Let's go to... Okay, so directly copying that color grade was no bueno. How about this one, so we can at least get a base? I kind of like what's happening. We're basically creating a vignette with these two nodes, which is fine. We can bring down our exposure though. That's looking really nice. I like that. This shot specifically though, I do want to turn on some bloom. So in our film look, I'm going to turn on a little bit of bloom, because first of all, this is already looking kind of faded, but I want to emphasize that a little bit. And this can also soften the highlights coming through on the garage windows too. And halation's already on. Let's increase that just a little bit more. Really want to see that in our highlights too. Okay. And then we can move to this shot that I absolutely botched. So is what it is. Why are we losing so much detail there? Let's bring that down, bring up contrast just a little bit. One thing that we could do here, and I don't know if necessarily this would help or make it better. Okay, yeah, that increased our contrast too. So I'm going to reset that node, get rid of that window. Okay, that's actually looking pretty good. It's looking nice. Okay, we're starting to get into the fun shots here. No. Shift minus. Shift plus? Yeah, shift plus. That looks nice. I'm really digging the gritty look that's happening. I do want to see our waveforms here. Let's check that out. It's water. I'm talking too much. The one thing I've noticed with the PYXIS, using it with some stuff, is that the one, it recovers, like, it has a really decent dynamic range for a budget film camera, for a budget cinema camera. But one thing I've noticed, it recovers shadows really dang good. Yes, this is PYXIS footage. So we're shooting on, this is with the Blackmagic PYXIS 6K. So we're shooting in a in full open gate 6K in Film Gen 5, and yeah. Sorry, let me look at this last chat. Thanks for the tips. Definitely makes also, you think I should be best on a LUT pack? Look at Phantom LUTs. Here's my 2 cents on LUT packs. I have purchased a lot of LUT packs in my time. I'm even working on creating my own LUT packs to potentially sell. But I have really been pushing back on, first of all, selling my own LUT packs because of 2 things. One, DaVinci Resolve exists. You see with here, are we using a LUT? No. Like in this system, we're using film look. We're using color and exposure tools to design the look that we wanted. So if I wanted to take this project a step further, this is where LUTs become really awesome, is that you can buy a LUT pack. Let's say you find one from, like, personally, I really like Danny Gewurz. I've been following his YouTube channel for years. Wow. Sorry, I freaking got some hiccups here. I've been following Danny Gewurz's YouTube channel for years, and so I bought his LUT pack, and I really like a lot of his LUTs that he works with. Like this Nolan Blue is one of my favorites. I love this clean look for YouTube, but I don't use these a lot. And even when I do, I'll typically just put them on my camera. So I'll upload them to my camera, like the FX30, and I'll use that as a preview for, you know, when I'm working on set. But if you talk with, like, if you look at Roger Deakins, you look at Greg Fraser, something like that, they will work with colorists with certain projects to design specific LUTs for that feature film or that project. So if I wanted to take this project a step further, which I think potentially could have been unnecessary, but if I wanted to take this project a step further, I could have designed a specific LUT around this, like, gritty, contrasted cyan blue look and uploaded that to my Blackmagic camera so that while we were on set, I was exposing for that look. And so in DaVinci Resolve, you can create LUTs from the look. So I could take this shot, for example. Man, I keep doing my man dirty with these freeze frames. If I right click on this clip, you can go to generate LUT and you can generate a 33-point cube. The cool thing about LUTs when you're first getting started, and I think this is where they can become valuable and is why I'm starting to consider selling my own, because for a long time I've always thought that they were a waste of money. When I was like, you know, you can go into DaVinci Resolve, you can make your own LUTs and upload them to your camera. And one, you learn DaVinci Resolve and you learn how to color grade and create looks for the project that you're working on specifically, which I think is more valuable. But when you're first starting out and you don't understand DaVinci Resolve as much, you don't understand color grading, and you're still trying to get better at that and improve, you can emulate looks that people have created using LUT packs, right? So that's where I think they can become valuable. You buy a LUT pack, upload it to your camera, and start shooting projects for that LUT pack look that you purchased. I know this is super over explaining it, and I'm so sorry, but that's where I see the value of LUT packs. Once you get to a point that you're like, I know color grading, I know DaVinci, I know the intention of the looks I'm trying to create, that's where I say design your own LUTs and then upload them to your camera using this, you know, generate LUT feature in DaVinci Resolve and move on, right? But don't get hung up on a LUT, right? If you're like, oh, I want to shoot like you, Ben. I want to shoot like BenGleasonMedia. Don't get hung up on it. create something, you know, take inspiration and create your style based off of what you're seeing, right? I do the same thing with projects that I look for. So like for this project specifically, I wonder if I can pull it up. So I use Milanote to kind of guide a lot of my inspiration. Hey, here you go. This is the thumbnail. But for this project specifically, here we go. So for this project specifically, I had a mood board that I created based off of a bunch of different stuff that I'd seen. And the shots that I was really interested in was this. I really liked this. And when I was coming up with my previous concept for this commercial earlier, I was kind of leaning towards this contrast between the intense athlete, like, you know, these shots with more of this gritty blue look and more of this like super high contrast look versus this like warm vintage in the house type of look. And that was my concept originally, but then I ended up shifting. Wow, can you even see because of my freaking camera? That was my concept originally, but then I had to shift things due to money constraints, and had to change to more of this. Okay, let's just lean towards this look here where it's gritty. Let's take this kind of like cyan look that's going on here, or what, like a cool seafoam blue or something like that. And that's where my intention came into play. And what I could have done was created a LUT from this or found a LUT pack online that I really liked that emulated this type of look. And then I could have brought that on set as inspiration. So long story, roundabout, over-explained type of look. LUT packs are valuable with intention or as a beginner, right? To start inspiring you to keep, you know, to design your own type of look and to be intentional. After that, I think it's more valuable to understand DaVinci Resolve and start designing your own looks and your own ideas, right? So if I do sell LUT packs, which again, I'm super hesitant and I can't decide, but if I do end up selling a LUT pack, it's going to be dirt cheap because I don't want people, you know, spending a ton of money on a LUT pack that, you know, they're going to rely on too much. Like I want to inspire them more to learn how to create their own style and their own look instead of just, you know, directly copying something. And I think that's fine to take inspiration from. But yeah, anyway, that was so long-winded and over-explained. But that is my opinion on LUTs. Which, by the way, we could come into this LUT node here that I have, and I could apply this Nolan blue, and you can see that it's going to destroy my footage. So yeah, all of a sudden we have this super blue. Once I actually give you guys what it looks like, we have this super bluish type of look with that LUT pack. And from here, we can then adjust how intense we want that LUT to be, right? And come into our key window here, and I can bring down the gain and kind of be like, all right, let's lean more towards kind of this look. Maybe I want it to be even more gritty. Let's really crush those shadows and all that stuff. And I can bring this up, right? And that's where a LUT can become pretty valuable. But, you know, we also design a pretty good look without the LUT. So it's really subjective. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. Okay. Ooh, we already had this shot, so we can just copy it directly. No, I already graded that. Where am I? We're on this shot. No, this has not been graded. But I've seen this shot before. What in the world? Am I tripping? Yeah, okay. It's right there. Cool. So now I can come over to here. We can take a look at this. Yes, skin tones are too exposed, so let's bring down the exposure on that. Okay. Yo, concept board for real. Should sell node trees with preset looks built in that people can modify. I would love that. I would love that. That would be awesome, actually. I think that is way more valuable. Because one, people get to see how you created it. And I think that, you know, a live stream is a great way to showcase that. But, you know, I think that's a way better solution than just selling LUTs. That's awesome. Thanks, Ken. Should we go back to the concept board? People were freaking pumped about that. I was the primary colorist for a company. Just allows to create a bunch of looks for my courses. Use it. Yeah. Again, like that, the node tree preset, so much more valuable in my opinion. Like, once you go into this node tree, you can toggle this on and off. Like, go to each node, and if DaVinci doesn't, why is it doing this? It's been doing this the whole time. If DaVinci doesn't give you those cyan bars there, or I guess mint bars there, you can toggle these on and off, and you can see what is happening here, like what this can affect, you know, the process. So you can see like, okay, this is a little bit of color, like a little bit of contrast, a little bit of exposure, right? You can see, oh, he added a power window. Oh, he added a power window, right? Like this bro is kind of, you know, power window happy. And this is more of the concept. That's where DaVinci is giving us those bars. Oh, okay, actually, I'll get to your questions in just a second. We'll go to the vision board in a second. But why am I in the center? I did want to show you guys. So Prism Lens Effects makes some really cool filters. They do effects filters. And so I brought them on set and was able to get some really cool shots with their filters to kind of create some transitions. So we used the halo effects filter. We used the linear effects filter, subtle linear, to just add some variety to the shots going on. We also used their triangular prism to get this really cool shot. So you can see that the wheel is in the background, is the shot, but then we put the prism right here to get his face as he's going. So this is all in camera. None of this is effects done in post. Like, really cool to use those filters on this project. And this project was perfect for that. Also use the linear effects filter for this. You can see the transition coming in that I kind of hate. Halo effects filter right there too. Let's see, where else did we use it? Yeah, dude. Jordan, I'm so sorry. Okay. Another halo effects filter shot. A little bit of that. Okay, I know there's a bunch more shots to go over with color grade. I'm just gonna go to my final edit and we'll kind of take a look at this. One, I wanted to show you guys the final edit, but I'm gonna pull off of the color grading process, but we're gonna take a look at this. So this is the full edit. I'll do a whole behind the scenes and walkthrough of this. But this is what my final color grade. I worked on this grade for like 3 or 4 hours, like, and I still think that there's a fair amount of adjustments I want to do, but this color grade is kind of where I'm leaning. I feel like his skin tone is a little too gold in a couple of these shots, and I'll make sure to, you know, finish that. Yeah, and I think that's actually coming partially from this adjustment clip here that has a film look node that's just built in, and it's just a custom node that has a little bit of it has the film gate, and it has a little bit more grain added to it because I wanted it to be a little bit more gritty. Playback. Hello. But yeah, so it's a really good explanation. I didn't even know you could make your own LUTs. Yeah. DaVinci Resolve is insane. The fact that it's free, especially if you buy a Blackmagic product. You can get the studio version for free if you buy a Blackmagic product, but it's also, I think it's only like $250 now or something like that. Like, insane, absolutely insane. I gotta go. Would you say DaVinci Resolve Studio is worth it for the upgrades? Yes, but I would, if you want a new camera or if you want a new Blackmagic thing, like even their color panel or something like that, you get the studio with a DaVinci product whenever you purchase a Blackmagic product. Sorry, that's where I think it's the most valuable. But I think that it's worth it. I think it's like $200 now. Let me double check that. But if it's $200, that's such a steal. Like, how much money do you spend on Premiere Pro every year, right? It's like $20 for the video thing every single month. So you're spending $240 US dollars a month, a year on Premiere Pro. You can spend that much and have DaVinci Resolve Studio forever, right? It's a one-time payment. Like, I think it's worth every single penny for the studio upgrade for sure. But the free version is also insane. So yeah. Got to open a DaVinci Resolve project for maybe the resizer pick through the entire project and it taught me that. Yeah. Honestly, I wish more things would do that. So honestly, Ken, I think that's what I might end up doing. Like, is doing more of a node tree pack. Because I really was like, I've been working on designing my own LUTs for Sony cameras, Blackmagic, and DJI products. And I've been like using color palettes and everything. But honestly, like after you said that, I might have to be like, okay, let's just do node tree packs, because that, again, that's so much more valuable. I know that doesn't apply directly to, so maybe I'll sell like, okay, here's the LUT pack from the node tree that you can apply to your camera, but then here's the node tree specifically so you can learn actually what I did. I really like that. That's freaking awesome. Thanks, Ken. Per pro editor and a pro in that. It's just I need to switch. Yeah, DaVinci Resolve's editing has gotten so much better over the years. It still has room for improvement for sure, but I think it is a transition going from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve, but I think it's worth it. Personally, if you want to take advantage more of color grading, if you want to take more advantage of Fusion, or just have one space to work in, I think it's worth it. I really do. It'll take some time to learn. Like, I've been in DaVinci Resolve for close to 6 years now. And when I made the jump from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve, it's the same kind of situation of, I started on Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro 10, I think it was. I jumped from that to Premiere Pro, and then from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve. So I've been in all of them. And I've even done Avid when I was in film school. So, like, Avid was awful and I never want to go back. But I am not an editor necessarily. Like, that's not been my direct thing. I'm more of a colorist, cinematographer. But yeah, I think it's worth the jump 100%. And the sooner you can jump over it to, the better, because Adobe, like, no, I don't care if I dog Adobe. Adobe is kind of stagnant right now. They're so focused on a lot of their AI stuff, which is fine. Their AI stuff is great. Photoshop is amazing. But I only pay for Photoshop and Lightroom. I don't even pay for Premiere Pro and After Effects anymore. I don't use those. And so now with DaVinci Resolve, I've invested more time into learning Fusion and learning the edit page in Fairlight, to now I'm like, I have the whole creative suite in one program that's optimized and keeps getting updated and keeps getting love and attention from DaVinci Resolve. So, I'm a really big fan of DaVinci, and that is, I love DaVinci. So I jumped ship from Premiere Pro a long time ago and have never looked back. So anyway, yeah, BRAW is freaking awesome. Like I mentioned this earlier, but if you shoot with BRAW, it technically is 16-bit color that is being compressed to 12-bit and then to be decompressed later to 16-bit. So anyone that tells you that the Red Komodo shoots in a higher color bit rate than the Blackmagic PYXIS, they're technically wrong, but also technically right at the same time. So anyway, oh my gosh, Ken, thank you. Really appreciate what you do, man. Wish your channel was around when I first started getting into video production, dude. Yeah, dude, even more than that, DM me on Instagram. I think we follow each other on Instagram, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, hit me up on that. I'd love to chat. That'd be freaking awesome. Thank you so much for the gifted, dude. That's awesome. Thank you. Seriously. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you had a great 4th. Everybody say bye to Ken. Thank you, Ken. Seriously, man, that's awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's go to the concept board, because y'all were pumped about that. Okay. Before I get into this, I do want to say I am jumping ship from Milanote, but this project was done in Milanote. I used Milanote for a long time. But yeah, Ken, seriously, hit me up on Instagram, or LinkedIn or something like that. Love to chat. It'd be awesome, man. Thanks again. Okay. So back to, I've used Milanote for like 5 years. and it's been awesome. This system is a little dated, but you can see I've kind of set up things here because in combination with this project, I was also going to do a behind the scenes YouTube video of it. So I was planning for both of those, which is what I do with any project that I do. I made a video all about pre-production and how important it is and how much it matters on my channel. So if you want some more of a deep dive into that type of stuff, you can go check that out. But I guess this is an even deeper dive. So with this project, I like to start with, okay, what is the goal of this here? And I'll look into, let me make sure I'm not being doxxed for anything here. Okay, we're good. So I like to start with what's the point, right? So with this project, I wanted to do something that was like Nike, but not Nike. And so I decided to go with this line of find your power. And I'll be honest, I use ChatGPT a little bit to kind of inspire some of this stuff, which I would love to do a live stream. Actually, this would be really cool. I would love to do a live stream that talks about how I use AI and ChatGPT to influence ideas and to help, bounce off, create a vision with a lot of this stuff. Because I use ChatGPT for that a lot with YouTube videos, with commercial work, with concepts, filming, all that stuff. And so I would love to do a live stream about that, which, by the way, these streams are going to be weekly. So whether or not it's, a Saturday morning or if it's on, I might do Sundays, I might do Fridays or something like that, but they are going to be a weekly thing. And I want these to become more consistent. So, which, by the way, I did want to mention real quick. I am shooting this on the Nisi lenses that I shot the commercial on. I'm shooting this on the 24 millimeter. I'll pull those out in a second because I want to show you guys. But I like to start off with some sort of concept. So with right here, I was like, this is the internal journey of an athlete from doubt to drive through the Easel G1M Max, which is the fitness bike that we were focusing on. So I have my whole step here. I did all of these. So these are all good. And then I did my mood board, which mood board, started off with the two different concepts that I had earlier and then shifted into just the single athlete, which again, you got to pivot through your entire process. Budget constraints can happen, time frame. One of the athletes that I wanted, so one of the talent that I was going to get, she was like a month and a half out and I needed to get this project done sooner. And so I wasn't able to do that concept. So moving into, after I did the mood board, kind of came up with a storyline. And here, this is where I use ChatGPT a little bit to kind of design and formulate this storyline, which again, I'd love to do a live stream where I kind of go through, building out that process without letting AI do all the work. Still letting my creativity and vision go into that. So I kind of came up with this idea, this is the internal struggle of a single athlete from doubt to drive, with this product. I wanted it to be gritty. I wanted it to be focused. This is in a single gym. I knew the location already. And so in this process, I kind of came up with a story beat breakdown. And this, again, got pivoted a little bit because, one, time constraints. And two, oh gosh, my battery is like on the brink. I was trying to kind of showcase the look that I really wanted to do. So there was a lot of pivoting on set. I came up with a little bit of inspiration here. So I had a couple of concepts I really liked from Peloton. I like this commercial from Danny Gewirtz. I thought it was really cool. But again, these changed a fair amount over time. And I started to create my own look, my own intention from it. And that's where this came from. So yeah, just created the inspiration. I got some song ideas from audio. I ended up using a song from Epidemic Sound instead because audio wasn't really giving me what I was looking for. Got my talent, got my call sheets, got my shot list all put together. So this is a shot list I came up with. And then, yeah, that's about it. That's the entire concept. So that's a whole other live stream, to be completely honest. But this is what, hopefully this will play back decently, but like this is what the end result ended up being after, a color grade. And I still have a lot of work that I want to do with this. So yeah, I know you probably can't hear the music. I'll be honest, I don't know how to turn it on. I'm muted. I've already gotten a ton of feedback from people. Like that's another thing about like doing projects like this. Get feedback from people. Send it to people. Let them critique it. Let them look at it. And, you know, let them kill your darlings a little bit, because, you know, you're going to learn new things from them, and open up your mind. Let yourself listen to their feedback, and don't get emotional about the project that you're working with. You know, I know that can be tough. You know, you work on a project like this, you have an idea, you have a concept, and somebody says, you know, this needs to change, or this needs to be different, something like that. And you might sit there and be like, oh, what the heck? Why would you say that? Like, I thought you were going to love it because I was proud of this or whatever. And like, but no, let them thrash it apart. Let them give you feedback. Let them critique it. And that's going to be so valuable. So I did that with this project. I've sent it to like 5 different people, showed it in front of like 10. I'm probably going to show it to even more, and I'll come back and make adjustments and make edits as time goes on. All right. So before I hop off, again, still continue the Q&A. So if you still got questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thank you to all the questions already. Thank you to Ken for the input and the gifted. Freaking awesome. Shout out to him. Yeah, been an awesome stream so far. I want to do one more thing before I hop off. So we're actually going to hop out of DaVinci. So I'm going to go full frame here. I'm still learning OBS, so it's a bunch of OBS. Okay, so we're going to go out of DaVinci, and I'm actually going to grab something fun. Hopefully my camera doesn't die. Okay. Whew. You know, actually, we're just gonna set him here. So Nisi was cool enough. I'm gonna do a full review of these cinema lenses, but Nisi was cool enough to let me borrow the Aries lenses for that project and another project that I have this week. And they sent me the 5 lens set of these lenses, and I've been able to test them for a couple of weeks. So we shot that project on the Blackmagic PYXIS and on these Nisi Aries lenses. They're T1.4. Let's see if we can get them. Let's get them in focus here. Which, by the way, I am shooting on the Nisi 24mm right now. So the live stream is entirely done on that Cine lens. But yeah, I was able to use these Cine lenses on that project. These things are beautiful, but good glory, they are expensive. These are $2,500 a pop. These are not cheap lenses. These are cinema beauties. And I have really enjoyed using these things all the way to T1.4. And it's all 5 lenses. There's an 18mm, 24mm, 35mm, 50mm, and an 85mm. But these are the PL mount versions. I'm pretty sure that they'll also have an EF version or adapters or something like that. And the other cool part of these, let's see if I can get them 50mm right. Gotta pull this out. These have screw-in filters. Oh, hi. You can see my face. They got screw-in filters on the back. So these kind of screw off like this. And then I'm pretty sure that they're going to design some filters to go in the back of them. So instead of putting them on the front, put them right on that PL mount, and then you get these little filters that you can throw in. So yeah, these lenses have been so fun to work with. Not done. I've got 2 more projects to shoot with them before I gotta send them back. But yeah, they have been so fun. But yeah, they're not cheap, like $2,500 US. So these are not really entry level lenses. Yeah, these have been beautiful lenses. Last thing I wanted to pull out. Well, second of all, the 18mm on that shoot was one of my favorite lenses to use. I'm not usually a wide angle fan. I usually like, 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter, something like that. But this 18 was insane. And it's at T1.4 too. Like, the fact that they got the entire set to be T1.4 is awesome. Freaking love it. These lenses are beautiful. Really, really love shooting with these. When I do the behind the scenes video on my channel and do the review of these, stay tuned because that's going to be awesome. Okay, last thing I wanted to show you guys, and I'm probably going to hop off, so if you have any questions, now's the time. All right. So this has been my PYXIS rig. So my Blackmagic PYXIS, I've kind of been working on this since like April, something like that. Let me get my mic up here. So I've been working on this rig for a while now. And it's still in the works. I ordered the Condor Blue Hollywood handle, and they accidentally sent me the wrong color. They sent me the gray version instead of the black. So I had to return that and exchange it for the black version. And I also recently switched the monitor to being on this little pivot arm here instead of being on this Mofage arm, or Mofage, I think is how they pronounce it. But this Mofage arm has been pretty cool as well. So yeah, right now, the lens I've got right now on here is the most exciting part. So these are brand new, brand spanking new. I got these in the mail, like 3 weeks ago, something like that. These are the new Blazar Mantis series of lenses. So these are their new anamorphic lenses that are 1.33x D-squeeze, or squeeze factor, but they have an oval bokeh built into them so that you kind of get more of this 2x look. Sorry, I'm trying to get the lighting to look better. Kind of get more of a 2x look with these lenses instead of your 1.33 look. So anyway, these have been amazing to work with, and I wanted to do some shots with these lenses, but I haven't had a chance to use these on like a big project yet. I am shooting with these next weekend. We're shooting a little narrative project with these, so when I do a live stream color grading that footage or something like that, I would love to show off the look of these lenses because they have been so fun to work with. Yeah, this is the current PYXIS rig. I'm gonna do a whole rig breakdown video probably next week. I'm waiting for that Condor Blue handle to come back in. But yeah, that Hollywood handle from Condor Blue has been really fun. But yeah, got a little side grip here. Right now is the manual focus wheel, but I do have a wireless follow focus as well, and then wireless transmission on the back, V-mount powered. And then you got SDI for the transmitter and all that stuff. Let me grab. Yeah, we also have the other two Blazar boys. The 35 has been my favorite so far. And using a manual focus lens for a live stream is not ideal. But yeah, the 35 has been so beautiful. This has been my favorite. I've actually been using this lens, and I know that super overkill, but I've been using this lens to record my A roll for some YouTube videos coming up. Is there a smudge on it? No, we're good. But yeah, shooting on these lenses is really cool because when you shoot on an open gate sensor and you de-squeeze it, it actually becomes more of like a full 16:9 image. But you get all the beautiful anamorphic characteristics from these lenses. And man, are these I have been wanting a Blazar set for so long and just have never pulled the trigger. But these were absolutely the second they were announced, I was like, yep, this is it. Let's go. And I bought them, ordered them the same day they were released. And I will definitely get the 25 and 100 millimeter because I've been so impressed with these. But here's the thing. I've got a bunch of anamorphic lenses right now. I've got a bunch from Sure because I've done some collaborations with them. And their lenses are really, really good. But I have explained multiple times with those lenses that they're good, but they lack anamorphic characteristic a ton. So, sneak preview. Don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this yet. This is a brand new anamorphic lens from Sirui. I think it comes out next month, I want to say. But this is their, or at least it's available for purchase next month. But this is their new 1.5x Iron Star. This is their 60 millimeter version. And this thing is like all the feedback that I've been giving them to be like, bro, where's the anamorphic characteristic? Give us the anamorphic characteristic. Emphasize the anamorphics. Like this is it. It's PL, also has an EF mount. It's amber flare, like, or neutral flare. It's a 1.5x anamorphic, and it actually has good anamorphic characteristics. So I'm excited to talk about this lens a ton. But anyway, super cool lineup. A lot of really awesome videos coming up. Probably, in the next few months. And yeah, hang on, let's get this out of the way. Whew, do a sign off before my Sony camera dies. All right. Wow, we're pushing 2-hour stream. That's about how long I was thinking of doing this. Okay. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for stopping in and hanging around for 2 hours. Good glory. Don't you guys have something to do with your day? I'm just kidding. No, I got nothing to do today. I'm going to go golfing, and I'm going to work on some YouTube videos or something like that. Or, oh, wait, no, I am shooting a spec ad today. Shooting a budget spec ad today for the for Liquid Death. So I'm excited about that. That'll be a YouTube video as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for stopping in, hanging around for, if you stay for the whole 2 hours, type 1 in the comments if you stay for the whole 2 hours. It's freaking wild. But yeah, we did a little bit of color grading. This is going to become a weekly thing. So yeah, I'll probably see you guys next week. But yeah, stay tuned on the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, smash that subscribe button. And yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. If you did enjoy it, smash that like button and stick around and come out around next week. I'm really bad at signing off. So anyway, thanks guys. Thanks guys for sticking around. We'll see you guys next week.